Okay, good morning, everybody. I would like to start by wishing you all a very successful World Anesthesia Day. It's not just another anniversary, but it should be a powerful message because even so many years after introduction of anesthesia, there is still a neglect for our specialty. So it should be a powerful advocacy tool to mobilize political will, educate general population, public, and enforce achievements for the anesthesia community. Well, after saying that, it is my privilege to introduce now my colleague and friend, Dr. Munir Shawagfeh, who succeeded me in the presidency of the PAPSA, where I will still collaborate with him as Vice President Board member. The relation and friendship between the LSA and the Jordan Anesthesia Society, and more specifically with Dr. Munir Shawagfeh, started in 2014 when Jordan accepted so gracefully to share with Lebanon, who was once more crossing difficult times, the organization of a joint Pan-Arab Congress in Amman. And many of you will remember that it was then a big success, and it left us with nice memories and excellent friends like Munir. Dr. Munir Shawagfeh is, as I mentioned, the actual PAPSA president. He is a specialist in anesthesia, intensive care, and pain management. He graduated from the Jordan University in Amman. He also holds a certificate of specialization in emergency medicine from Saarbrücken in Germany. And since 2005, he works as a consultant in anesthesia, intensive care, and pain management at the King Hussein Cancer Center in Amman. Dr. Munir will be presenting a very interesting topic about conflict resolution in the operating room. And I am sure that each one of us will find himself in this presentation, where another key role for the anesthesiologist will be highlighted. Dr. Shawagfeh, welcome, and the floor and the screen are yours.
Thank you very much, Patricia. Am I here? Well? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Patricia. Really, I don't need to stress the fact of the strong relations we have with our brothers in Lebanon. That started a long time ago, and it continues till this moment. Now, okay, a quick reminder of the World Anesthesia Day. That's today, and happy Anesthesia Day for all of us. Well, the talk will be about the conflict resolution in operating room, and I'll try to present a schematic view just to dissolve all the matters surrounding it. This is the place where I work, this King Hussein Cancer Center. The white building here is the old building, and here are the two towers recently built around 10 years ago. The center accommodates about 360 beds, and it deals with only cancer patients from all aspects. Well, according to a American social worker, Mary Parker Follett, who is a pioneer in who's actually defined the conflict resolution and put it in try to manage it with a methodology, very nice methodology. She says about conflict that is the appearance of difference, or difference of opinions or interests. We have another American professor in business administration who sees conflict as antecedents, conditions like scarcity of resources, policy differences among individuals, etc. Comes with effective states of individuals involved, for example, like stress, tension, hostility, and anxiety, etc. And cognitive states of individuals are involved also their perception of awareness of conflict situations. And it involves also change behavior ranging from passive resistance to overt aggression. He was the one who put the conflict in stages, namely latent stage, perceived stage, felt stage, manifest stage, and the last one, the conflict aftermath. But in the clinical sense, in the clinical arena, we define conflict as a dispute, disagreement, or difference of opinion related to the management of a patient, involving more than one individual and requiring some decision or action. In the healthcare environment, we work closely a number of highly educated and experienced professionals, each having a distinct role and responsibility. This is not small, really. Conflict occurs during the management of almost 50 to 78% of patients, and half of these involve clinician conflicts. And it's really devastating to know that it consumes around 20% of physician executive time. The operating room, high stress and volatile workplace, where interpersonal conflict can be frequent and at times intense. And it's the only location within the hospital where two co-equal physicians regularly and simultaneously share responsibility for one patient, overlapping and poorly delineated areas of responsibility. And decisions here are subjected to intense scrutiny by different parties and a retrospective analysis. Needless to say that sleep deprivation is abundant in this workplace, and the personnel there are always under constant production pressure. Here, part of the survey that was presented to operating room personnel, namely the anesthetists and the surgeons and the nurses, and they were required to describe the workplace, the structure, team structure, from their point of view. Majority see the team structure as an overlapping, where the anesthetic and the surgical nursing team subgroups share a proportion of the OR works. Some see it as hierarchical, where one of the three subgroups lead the others two. Some also see it as independent, where all three subgroups work independently with no sharing of work. Some see it as sequential, where one group's work flows the completion of another group's work without sharing it. And a few also see it as a driven, where there is sharing of the work between specific subgroups, not all groups. Conflict can occur between physicians and patients, between physicians and families, between physicians and nurses, also between physicians themselves. And it can be severe. It occurs as a continuum ranging from minor disagreements and differences of opinion to personality clashes to latent hostility, including physical confrontation. It reaches even to the courtroom. Disagreement is common occurrence, as each individual has his own way of thinking, has different values and beliefs, and reacts differently in different situations. And this may lead to conflict. Personality traits, personal efforts, factors, and differences in values and beliefs can affect the working environment in operating room. Perfectionism, compulsiveness, and aggressiveness found in surgeons and anesthesiologists can make it more difficult for them to acknowledge each other's expertise. This may have devastating effect on cohesive teamwork. disruptive behavior, and uncooperative work attitude of both the anesthesiologist and the surgeon can ruin the atmosphere of the operating rooms. Here, the interpersonal conflict can emerge from the differences in information, values, and beliefs, as I said, experience, roles, interests, and goals, and incorrect, inadequate, poorly communicated information can account for almost 35% of anesthesia-related sentinel events. Typical conflicts can arise in OR regarding disagreements over informed consent, treatment plans, degree of preoperative investigations, and other directives that limit treatment or do not necessitate orders. It's always a discussion of who is responsible for a particular treatment, who decides what to do, what types of anesthetic, what post-operative treatment, etc. Who has the last word on the decision to operate or not to operate? Who decides whether a new case is started? Who decides the order of the case to be? Very seldom they consider the ability and expertise of the individual team member involved, whether surgeon or anesthesiologist. Various guidelines available to deal with the common causes of conflict should be followed, such as the guidelines from the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education, which says that all accredited residency programs provide instruction in the ethics of medicine and require demonstration of adherence to ethical principles by their trainees. ASA guidelines for ethical practice on anesthesiology and modern curriculum on ethics, which was formulated to assist the practicing anesthesiologists to deal with the conflicts related to ethical issues. Anesthesia crisis resource management also training, which is analogous to crew resource management to improve the patient safety through team coordination and communication. Also, we have the interdisciplinary team training programs for healthcare workers developed by Institute of Medicine to decrease the incidence of preventable medical errors. Guidelines for fee structure of anesthesiologists prepared by the Anesthesiologist Society of different countries should be followed in a uniform manner. Consequences of unresolved conflicts. We have indirect costs and direct costs. Indirect costs include negative publicity and media coverage. We have decreased morale, increased disability and workers' compensation claims, increased turnover, diversion of limited and valuable resources to dispute resolution, including legal remedies. Conflict can exceed incompetence as the instigating event for malpractice claims. The direct costs and impediment to communication between the involved parties. The role played by poor communication in the occurrence of preventable medical errors is well documented and dominant. And the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education has mandated that effective communication is one of the 6 core competences that must be demonstrated for successful completion of residency. Conflict resolution. 5 general mechanisms are commonly used in conflict resolution: avoidance or inaction, yielding or accommodation, collaboration or integration, compromise, and last, competition or contention. We'll come to each in a minute. The first step is avoiding. Advantage of such mechanism is you avoid risks and allow pooling. Disadvantage can ignore your own opinion and repress emotions and look the other way, just quit and run. No confrontation. The competing style is I win, you lose, as simple as this. The advantage of this is it happens in emergencies. There's a clear winner here. And the disadvantage of that is disrupt the relationship and it may recur. Accommodating. In simple terms, I lose and give. The advantage of such style is person or the patient is more important and builds a goodwill also. The disadvantage is giving in and let go. It's a form of downplay and cooling off. Compromising. Both get something. Neither party gets everything he or she wants, but gets something and each gives up something, often quite satisfactory to reach. But it's time consuming. Collaborating, this is the ideal situation. I win, you win. It builds a team and it avoids later problems. But it's time consuming and many times hard to achieve. Partners here work together to understand the real issues behind the differences and reach for a solution that meets the needs of both. Conflicts are normal, as the two individuals cannot be expected to agree on everything at all times. Since operating room conflicts are inevitable, learning to deal with them in a healthy way is crucial. Successful conflict resolution requires mutual respect among surgeons and anesthesiologists. Careful listening, adherence to issues, recognition of differences, and acknowledgement of the emotional aspects of its agreement. Whenever a conflict arises in the operating room, following steps may be followed to resolve it. The clarity should be secured. We should establish common goals, consider available options, and understand the barriers, reach the best alternative, and ensure implementation of all of this. Conflict triggers strong emotions and can lead to hurt feelings, disappointment, and discomfort. By staying calm and controlling emotions, one can accurately interpret both verbal as well as the non-verbal communication. We should appreciate differences and act fast and resolve quick. Focus on the problem rather than people and be open to alternatives. Negotiate, negotiate, and negotiate. Then listen and empathize. We have to act right and view the team members as partners rather than opponents. We should cooperate rather than attack and defend. And it's always you and me rather than you or me. And the conflict situation, whatever there, needs analysis. It does not need knee and jerk reaction. It's not a reflex solutions all the time. And the needs should be complementary rather than conflict needs. And the motto here is, I want you to win too, rather than I want to win. Conflict resolution is the process by which two or more parties engage in a disagreement, dispute, or debate, reach an agreement resolving it. Conflict resolution, otherwise known as the reconciliation, is conceptualized as the methods and processes involved in facilitating the peaceful ending of conflict and retribution. The application of mechanism, the mechanism we have said, in the avoidance mechanism, we use it in conceptual disagreement, small problems, small things that do not need big confrontation. Yielding can be used when own position is wrong. It will be easy for one party to just withdraw from the dispute. In collaboration, we focus on goals, win-win. And the compromise, when both parties are unable to reach collaborative agreement, then one has to do something. Competition, this issue of great importance. As in competition, we have no conciliation can be achieved. The avoidance involves inaction and reflects negative perception of conflict. Concerns go unexpressed in avoidance. If repeated, it will kill relationships slowly. In yielding, it can be a valid response when the conflict is trivial or the individual is not a primary party to the conflict. It's appropriate when one is aware that he or she is in error or for other reasons will lose in debate on the issue at hand. Collaboration focuses on achieving goals rather than meeting demands and is often referred to as win-win. In compromise is a backup strategy in the instance that collaboration has not yet succeeded. Both sides make trade-offs with the intention of equally inflicting pain and gain. Competition is appropriate when the issue is of great importance and the other party is not amenable to any of the more conciliatory approaches. It leads to further damaging the relationship of the parties and undermining the actions needed to implement the final decision. Management of conflict in the operating room involving the institution planning. It should have established an institution-wide conflict management program, building a culture that welcomes normative conflict resolution and should foster group cohesion. Personal conduct, we should anticipate conflict and develop communication skills, identify the precise source of the conflict, establish rules of conduct, find a non-judgmental starting point for the discussion and eventual resolution. Establish shared standards and goals. Recognize any shared frustrations with the system. If confrontation with a colleague is necessary, it should be conducted in a private setting. Have a low threshold for intervention by a third party. And if conflict is ultimately irreconcilable, transfer patient care to an uninvolved colleague. Effective teamwork elements, situation awareness, problem identification, decision-making, workload distribution, time management, and most important, conflict resolution. Disruptive behavior. Here we have a case of a 53-year-old woman who requires urgent reduction and repair of an incarcerated femoral hernia. Her surgeon schedules the case by telephone with the OR staff and then arrives to prepare for the procedure. The surgeon is immediately confronted by the attending anesthesiologist who is enraged because the case was not directly discussed with him. He has other possibilities that will conflict with this procedure. The surgeon frequently takes longer to do a procedure than what has been scheduled. The disagreement rapidly degenerates into a shouting the patient as she is being wheeled into the OR area. The American behavior as personal conduct, whether verbal or physical, that affects or that potentially may affect patient care negatively. It's more common in males, and surgeons more common than nurses than anesthetists. Can lead to adverse events, medical errors, compromised patient safety, and impaired quality in nearly 2/3 of the cases, and even patient mortality, 28% of cases. Forms of disruptive behavior, threatening or abusive language, degrading or demanding comments, profanity, grossly offensive language, threatening or intimidating contact, public derogatory comments about quality of care, inappropriate interest into medical records, idiosyncratic requirements imposed on staff that are unrelated to improve patient care. We have seen all of these. Dealing with disruptive position in the OR. The very nature of this behavioral pathology renders futile or reasonable attempts at conflict resolution. The best that can be achieved at the moment of conflict is either avoidance, finding another anesthesiologist who is prepared to administer anesthesia, or some form of compromise consistent with the patient's safety. Ultimately, this confrontation and other similar events must be discussed in open forum with the responsible department and institutional leaders. We're a scenario here where a 10-year-old boy was posted for elective inguinal hernia repair under GA at 8 a.m. in the morning. Day before surgery, the anesthesiologist instructed the parents of the patient to keep him NPO 8 hours before the scheduled procedure. Patient reported at a.m. after taking milk and biscuits at 6 a.m. Considering this situation, anesthesiologist approached the surgeon to postpone the case for at least 6 hours, as patient had not followed the instruction regarding NPO. Surgeon started arguing that as the milk is liquid, patient can be taken for surgery after 4 hours fasting. Argument took an ugly turn, and surgeon started threatening the anesthesiologist that he would report to higher authorities that anesthesiologist is not willing to give anesthesia to my patient, and I am also willing to take responsibility of the patient if anything goes wrong. In order to control the situation, compromise was struck to wait at least 6 hours for procedure. Now in this situation, anesthesiologist's instructions were not followed. Surgeon was dominating and used threatening language and was single-minded to go ahead with the surgery. Conflict was avoided by adopting a compromise mechanism, but patient safety was in mind. Here's another scenario where we have a or female having insulin-dependent diabetes and was posted for elective cholecystectomy. Patient did not report in regular pre-anesthetic clinic. Patient was weak in the OR on the day of the surgery, and anesthesiologist was called to assist the patient. On review of the history and investigations, it was decided that the patient needs echocardiography and cardiologist's opinion for cardiac status for surgery. Case was postponed. Surgeon was furious that how echocardiogram will change the course of cardiac pathology and shouted. Patient has come to me for cholecystectomy, not for echocardiogram. Now, in this case, surgery was postponed for additional investigations to identify the existing medical condition and to plan anesthesia accordingly. Cancellation of the surgery was the cause of conflict, but patient safety was the top priority. Here, collaboration as a mechanism for conflict resolution was used. Another scenario on a busy elective OR day, oncosurgeon was going to operate a 70-year-old patient with CA thyroid with neck meds. Other routine cases were also on the list. Anesthesiologist requested the chief of surgeon to allow the oncosurgeon to operate on a table having invasive monitoring as the case is complicated. Surgeon scolded at the anesthesiologist. Who are you to decide that which case is to be operated on which table? And he was not willing to listen to anything and was using degrading language. In view of patient safety, intervention from the chief of anesthesiology was sought, and patient was put on invasive monitoring table. Now, in this case, surgeon behaved in a manner as if he was the captain of the ship and was a cause of conflict. But firm stand taken by the chief of anesthesia in the favor of patient safety was again an example of collaboration. Last scenario, there was a common problem that surgeons do not adhere to the OR plans, which they would come at their own convenience and then start dictating the anesthesiologist the course in which patients would be operated. Sometimes fasting children and even diabetic patients who should be operated as first case are ignored. When the surgeons are confronted on these issues, disagreement rapidly degenerates into shouting match and many a time witnessed by the patient also. This disruptive behavior sometimes takes the form of abusive language, derogatory remarks, and physical confrontation. This leads to hostile work environment and patient care is compromised, as dealing a physician with destructive behavior is time-consuming and futile. The best mechanism to deal with such kind of behavior is avoidance. Conclusion. Conflict is common in our operating room, and successful conflict resolution is an important component of the teamwork necessary for good patient care. Good communication is of paramount significance in preventing conflict. Resolution of conflict requires mutual respect among teammates, careful listening, adherence to the issues of patient care, recognition of differences, and acknowledgement of the emotional aspects of the disagreement. It's a skill that can be learned, and conflict that's satisfactory resolved can be therapeutic for the involved parties and is an important component of good patient care. Finally, the OR environment need not be as cohesive as previously assumed, a finding that carries implications for the effectiveness of team training interventions. Further research is needed in order to fully comprehend the dynamics of the OR as a working environment and, most importantly, their relations to patient safety. الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين ولا تستوي الحسنة ولا السيئة ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ليس الشديد بالصرعة إنما الشديد الذي يملك نفسه عند الغضب. And James chapter 1 verse 20, for the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. And the best general is the one who never fights. There are 5 fundamental factors for success in war: weather, terrain, leadership, military doctrine, and most importantly, moral influence. Good commanders never come to an engagement unless they are compelled to by absolute necessity. Thank you very much.
Dr. Shawagfeh, this is Vanda Abirad, LSA President. I would like to really wholeheartedly thank you for this excellent lecture. And also thank Dr. Patricia Yesbek for moderating it. Thank you, Patricia.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Shawagfeh, for the excellent and very interesting presentation, where you highlighted very well that for so many reasons, the OR is a place favorable to conflict. And unfortunately, these conflicts are sources of stress, satisfaction, exhaustion for the team, and most importantly, they increase the risk of errors and jeopardize the safety of patients. So my question is maybe more practical. First question, when a conflict arises, don't you think that a fast, immediate, and efficient response by a person who has some authority in the block, either the chief anesthesiologist or the surgeon or the operating room director, should come in place and is necessary in the first place to avoid the escalation of the conflict before applying the strategy that you explained so well? But maybe we need, first of all, to stop the escalation of the conflict and then sit together and continue the strategy that you developed so well.
Yeah, thank you for this question. Usually in the hierarchical systems, as I have conversation, I asked Dr. Gilbert about that, and it's really a way of to dissolve conflicts immediately when you have hierarchical system where one is responsible and his word will be followed by others. But it's not always the case. It depends on the sectors, of course. In the private sector, this also can easily be achieved. Yes, the leader will come and try to solve the issue as fast as possible, and later on he might sit, as you have just suggested, and try to reconcile things between the two. But other sectors, it's not easy for somebody just come and impose his view to resolve the conflict or solve it. You see, that's why it can escalate and with no ability to control it. That's why we have to resort to another ways of resolving it.
Okay, but as these techniques are not always infallible and always result in success, we know that sometimes the situation is so difficult that we cannot achieve a, let's say, a rapid negotiation or acceptance. What about prevention? You talked a little bit about that, but don't you think that prevention is very important, like in everything in medicine and in health? We should try by prevention. And when we say prevention, it's like a good education of professionals and on professionalism, on communication skills, negotiation skills. Even it looks like business to have negotiation skills. I think all healthcare professionals maybe should learn very early these skills during their training to be able afterward to apply it in the workplace. Maybe this is the best way to prevent those conflicts.
I agree with you.
You talked very well about the ASA recommendations, and it should be, I know that some ORs have a charter that everyone that goes and works in the OR should read and sign to have and respect the behavior and the code of conduct that is asked in this conviction and that can avoid the conflicts. And also, I have also one last question. What do you think about the rising role of what they call mediators? I know that there's a new qualification about mediation for healthcare professionals, and some hospitals have a mediation committee. What do you think of that in helping in resolving some conflicts that we cannot resolve ourselves directly in the operating room?
That's right. Yeah, it's a good idea to have a mediator to intervene, and I said that you have to leave a room for a third party to intervene when things are done out of hand, you see. But these matters, to tell you the truth, easily said rather than being a practice.
Yes.
The rules are there, rules of conduct are there, the guidelines are there, policies are there, they all read it. But despite all this, still you will be confronted with somebody who does not respect all of that, and hence the confrontation will happen, and the resolution, the matters will escalate, and as I have said, it might reach even to the courtrooms. But yes, the role of a third party mediator can help so much. I think it should be incorporated officially in the guidelines, namely that one should intervene and try to.
I agree with you. Maybe mediator committees in the hospitals or in the operating room, anywhere.
Yes.
So, is there any other question in the room? Vanda, would you like to add something before we close? Okay, it seems that there is no questions. So thank you very much, Munir.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And have a nice afternoon.
You too. We'll be seeing each other, inshallah.
Yes, yeah, sure, sure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.